Hey guys, welcome back to the Actual VR podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Mann, the owner of Actuality VR. This is the podcast where we give you a behind-the-scenes look at the VR revolution in real time with real professionals. Today we're joined by friends of the show, Robert Coomber and Julian Messina. They've been on the show before, but today we're talking about a revolutionary way that sound engineers like themselves are using VR for sound design. More on that later. Don't forget, if you've been enjoying this and all of the content we put out, to subscribe on your platform of choice. And with that said, let's go. Wait, we start and we're rolling? Cool. What's going on, guys?
Hey, dude.
Hey.
Thanks for coming.
You're welcome.
We're having you back. You've both been here individually.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first time we're having you back together. And you guys want to talk a little bit about spatial audio. A little about spatial audio. So you've done quite a bit of work with spatial audio.
Mm-hmm.
Also, full disclosure, what we're talking about today is not an ad, but you guys came across something really cool. And I meant to find the clip, but I think I talked about it when I watched some of the, so before the show, I like kind of went through and looked at it. I think we saw like 2 years ago, there was like an introductory, or like they first displayed what it could do. I think it was 2 years ago, but I hadn't heard about it since. But you guys, you've been doing it.
Yes.
You've been actually
tabs on it.
Yes.
So what have you found out? So tell so for the people that are listening, people that are watching, what are we talking about here?
Go ahead.
Okay. So we're talking about Deer VR. For a while.
That's DEAR,
Yeah,
not the hunting
not,
game.
Yeah, not a deer, but DEAR.
Yeah, make sure.
DEAR VR. So we've been watching them for a little while, really because we've been using Facebook's tools as a way to do spatializing.
Yes.
And they've worked. I mean, we've gotten jobs done with it, but it's an extraordinary amount of time to put into, not only capturing and editing and mixing for stereo, but then having to, take objects and draw them all out. And it's a lot of work. And, really the vision was like, what if we could actually like mix in VR? Like, what would that be like?
Yeah.
Like, how would that speed up not so much like, it would be amazing as far as like it looking cool, but more like, can it speed up the workflow?
Because there's a lot that you have to do when it comes to like putting on. That was one thing with 360 video in the very beginning, when you didn't have a link between Premiere and a headset, or it was very complicated. You would have to like do the edit, then put on the headset, take it off, export, put it on your head, and then so is that kind of what you were experiencing with not to that extent, but like you were having to mix on the computer and then put on a headset and then
Exactly, yeah. So it's a little similar to that process where all of our editing and mixing and spatializing would be done on a normal 2D screen with a mouse and keyboard. And you can only get so much done in so much time when you're having to translate a 2D screen into like an actual 3-dimensional space. So we have, exactly. We've now taken that workflow and have put it into VR. So all of that spatializing, leveling, doing some basic editing is now done inside of the headset in VR, which saves so much time.
Yeah.
Just getting, and that's the best part is like, I can start on like Pro Tools because that's my personal DAW of choice, and fly through my editing and then just export all those audio files, and now we're like ready to rock, and I can just move things in space.
So what is the workflow? I mean, before you found Deer VR, if you can like kind of sum it up, like what programs were you, like, what's the step by step, like what were you like, how were you moving between, how was that cumbersome?
Well, actually, I mean, we can explain it with the project that we all did together recently, which was for Blake's VR project. Having been in that world of capturing, it's like we knew what we needed to capture there in order to implement it through that workflow, because we had found Deer VR and we're like, okay, we're going to use this to get through this. And then at the end of it too, and we'll discuss it later, is the final implementation, dealing with Unity and other options like that. So essentially, when we were recording, we were getting spot mics of everything, which was close miking of each of the instruments or his vocals and stuff. And we were also capturing in ambisonics using a tetrahedral microphone, which we have pictures of that too, and then also a surround array of 5 microphones. And the reason why
what picture is that?
Yeah, which pictures am I going to pull up for you guys?
So we want to pull up go ahead and pull up the tetrahedral mic. It's that cool looking gold capsule.
It's in the setup.
Setup, which number is it?
I believe it's 3 or 4.
We've got pictures. For those of you that are listening and not watching, we'll try our best to explain a technology and a piece of hardware that doesn't look like anything you've probably ever seen before, but we're going to do our best. But software-wise, like what before Deer VR, because I know you did. We're going to get into like the nitty-gritty. Oh yeah. So for the picture, for those of you, Patrick, did you take this picture? Is this your picture?
I had Patrick actually.
Yeah,
take this
nice. Patrick's in the studio today. He's our team videographer and photographer. So he took this amazing picture that you don't get to see if you're just listening, which is why you should watch the YouTube and the Facebook. But what it is it's a looks like a traditional microphone down at the base. You have a part that you hold, but it has this kind of a like. How do you even describe? I don't even know how to describe this. There's a bunch of microphones, 5, right?
Yeah.
4.
Four. So there's multiple capsules, which are the actual physical microphone pointing in all different directions.
They're all cardioid.
Yes. And
Cardioid
polar pattern. That's a pickup pattern.
Yeah. So those all those 4 microphones are facing in all different directions, and it's sending all that through that wire to our recording software.
Right.
And that you can see that. So this camera is actually attached right beneath that 360 camera, so you can record directly from that.
And it's of that perspective.
Exactly.
And that's something
that's what matters.
That's very intentional. Like it had to be right there to give you.
Oh, look at that close up. Beautiful shot.
Nice
Oh, man. Wow. Okay.
That is a nice looking picture.
That's a great looking picture.
Yep.
So as if we were to just use that audio from that and spatialize that, as you're moving your head around, that audio is from that perspective, and it's giving you like an accurate representation of what sounds are coming at you and what other reflections are coming around as well.
That's awesome.
So we use that as well as or surround tree, or I keep saying surround tree. It's a surround array, which we have another picture of as well. That's an arrangement of 5 different microphones. And the reason why...
Oh, yeah, that thing was crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, yep. There we go.
And the reason why we did this was, like, when I record traditionally, like, I try and think in layers. And so knowing that at some point in the future, like, we'd probably be getting to mix in surround, I wanted to have a recording that was also recorded in surround.
Yeah.
So having the flexibility of both the ambisonic for doing the ambisonic mix, and then also a surround mix, I wanted that option.
Yeah.
So it's all like, and as you know, it's like thinking way down the road, like how do we put it together, and what layers do we have? What tools do we have?
So you guys set up and design, or I think you guys had some influences. There's some people out there that have done something similar.
Myrick Styles, from Abbey Road.
Sweet.
A bunch of those guys, they had an amazing AES report on that.
That's awesome. Isn't that great about the community? Like, especially when you're like learning, developing new.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you guys recorded, so you captured it before Deer VR. So you had all these separate audio files.
Yeah.
From different microphones.
Yep.
What did the workflow look like? Did you then take that into Pro Tools? What was the workflow to spatialize that to the end? And I say, when I say workflow, I mean like the specifics of like what, I mean, were you bouncing around different software? Are you like going back and forth? And, obviously the Facebook Spatial Workstation is not integrated into anything like Pro Tools.
Now it is. Now it is. Though,
it is.
Which is kind of amazing. Like, and I only saw that recently because
very recent.
Yeah, like you can now create ambisonic tracks within Pro Tools, and when you actually download Pro Tools, it includes
that's
the
cool.
Facebook work. So
that's like Metal's when Adobe acquired Metal.
Yeah,
they incorporated the immersive tools.
So they started Avid started looking ahead in that way, which I got to give them credit for. So like you had these tools that you could work with, but again, like it's just too painful of a workflow, to be honest, because you'll dump hours into not only editing and getting things sounding right, but then you got to like take the time and constantly take the headset on and off, trying to like remember the perspective that you were trying to go for, or things like that, and then trying to do the automation. You're grabbing like a sound object and trying to follow it in time. It's just not. It's
clunky.
It's clunky.
Yeah.
It's really clunky. It takes a lot of time.
Yeah, especially so, for example, like let's say if you're trying to do a car, spatialize the sound of a car, you might have some wheel sounds, the engine sounds, some wind sounds off the car, and trying to take that and move each one of them individually with your, with just a mouse and keyboard. That
are you keyframing that out? Is that essentially,
exactly. So
individually,
and like you can consolidate it down to like a mono source or a stereo source, but then you start losing that kind of separation. And early on, like the guys from Oculus were saying, like, try and get separate sounds and attach them to parts of whatever it is that you're designing, like doing sound design for, because it makes it that much more impressionable.
So how is the workflow that you're experiencing in Deer VR? How is it alleviating those problems?
Oh, a lot. In fact,
what makes it so smooth?
What makes it so smooth is that, okay, so once we've geeked and sound designed everything, we've got it now in...
That's outside of the headset. That's the traditional audio editing that we do for every single piece of audio.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Just clean up.
So mixing, working on the mix.
Yes,
exactly.
Okay. So once we have that, we can export those, and that's committed. And now we can bring it into our workstation, which we use Reaper now. And we'll pull up the plugin, and actually we can probably segue to that now, actually. So if we can get which file was it?
It's one of the images of the software. It's with the video, but it's just the images.
Yeah, we can then. So here's a better example. So here's a picture of a session, a test session that I did recently, and so that's the plugin itself. So typically, like if I were to do this without a headset, I would have to grab that little point right there. Here. Drag it and automate it.
If you can imagine, if you've got, think of a graph paper and you're at the zero, you're in the middle of the head is at the middle, you're looking top down. Yep. You can click and drag sounds positionally. So if it's behind you, you can click and drag it behind you on the quadrant. Which is, it seems pretty intuitive.
Yeah, it is intuitive, but
until you're trying to keyframe it with a moving image. Like if something's driving by, you don't get to see it on that little mini map.
Right. Traditionally, like I'll go into write automation mode, and then I'll grab that point and I'll watch the screen and I'll try and follow along with it.
So you have to put yourself into that perspective mentally. You're having to use your third eye to put yourself.
Exactly. Right. So
that's tough.
Have some foresight.
Not very precise.
No, it's not at all.
Okay.
So you're constantly taking pass after pass, and like, okay, that's getting better. You're taking practice passes. So, if you're looking at content where it's like 15 seconds long, 15 seconds starts adding up, and then you still got to do much more automation for other sounds.
Yeah.
So,
what about, okay, so when we go from here, that's the water heater.
I was like, I wasn't sure what that
was. So this is part of Deer VR, right?
Yes, this is their plugin, which is great.
Into Reaper. Or for Reaper.
Yes. For Reaper. So if we zoom out now, go ahead and zoom out a little bit. Keep going.
There's some pretty cool room presets too. Is that pretty standard with any type of?
So Facebook's had theirs, but this is much more intuitive, and they already have like great room modeling. So you have that sound source, and it can feed into that reverb, and then you also have these reflections that kind of help give you like a better emulation of what that space is like. But so there's two things I want to point out. So on the far right, there's the output format. Yeah, so the test that we were doing, Rob and I recently got their beta for their multi-channel surround option. And so we just ran it through our audio receiver at home and set up like a 5.1 surround system. Mm-hmm. And so we can actually select our output and say, okay, we want 5.1 or 7.1, and it goes up even higher to like 7.1.2. And what that means is you have 7 surround speakers, a sub, and then you have 2 height channels. So now we're getting into height as well.
That's cool.
So all of this to say that you get that flexibility, but at the same time, you can change the output to binaural or ambisonic. So it's as simple as changing outputs rather than having to restructure my entire workflow.
Which is one of the complications. Yeah. So we look at it on the client side. One of the spatial audio is, I would imagine it still is. I mean, for anybody who's thinking about sound design being just affecting the levels of a certain track, this is, especially when we talk about virtual reality. No. You guys are going to find out throughout this interview, if you haven't already, that there's so much more to it. You guys are thinking about, okay, how big is this room? What type of materials are in the room? How does that affect the sound? How does that, how do you make this the most realistic possible, as realistic as possible? Yeah. And it sounds like a lot of these tools
alleviate that. And if you look at the top right there, so this is where we'll get into the video in a second. So that Spatial Connect head tracking. This is the golden moment for this, because now you've got the option to adjust things very specifically, right? Like, or I can do it by hand with the mouse. Or now with the head tracking, it'll take all of that input there and I can see it in a headset. So now I'm going to be able to interact with sound objects, and this translates to that plugin.
Okay.
Yeah, so might as well pull up the video now.
Yeah, you can pull up the video
so you
now.
can see exactly.
So everything up to this point is done without a headset.
Yes.
You don't have the headset on. And I think this is probably the coolest part. This is what initially got my attention when I first saw it. The ability to... Being a visual learner and somebody who wants to be able to see the things and be able,
it's tangible.
It's so cool. I feel like this is the way that it should be.
Yes. Yeah. And not only not only just for VR and the video is going to illustrate this, but like I love doing post sound and being able to work in like a literal theater, like in a mixing room in a theater, and be able to pan things around. It's an amazing experience.
That's cool.
But now it's going to take that and give it that immersion where I can grab a sound and like bring it into a theater with surround sound.
Oh yeah.
Like that's crazy.
Cool. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you can go ahead and start it and we can kind of talk through it.
All right. So this is essentially hit pause for a sec. So this is the transport, like you would see in Video World, your play, stop, pause, the whole thing.
Play, stop.
Yeah, so right now,
backwards.
if you're just listening, there's an interface here that's giving you kind of your play controls. You have your play, stop, next frame, previous frame. You can loop. Looks like you can add some markers.
Yep, exactly. And on those bottom parts, those four options there, those are like windows, but they're these
like modules.
They're essentially modules. Yes. That give you more flexibility and control of certain sound objects and things like that. So we can let that play. All right, so I'm just kind of like going through, like showing you just options here, and then I'll pull up some
Julian, is
windows
this
in a
you
second.
using it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that's
So
bad.
this is this 3D map that I was talking about earlier. So this gives you like an overview of the whole scene, and everything in front of you. You get that right, front, left, top, bottom. But again,
And you can position.
yeah, all these windows are
things, move it wherever
That's
you want.
cool.
wherever you want. So those are like my virtual faders.
You can build your perfect desk. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's what I want for editing.
Exactly.
I want Premiere to be able to do this.
And so, and again, so these are some sound objects. So I can literally grab each object and move them around as I need them to be.
That's cool.
Yep. So.
And then I can also bring the distance in as well.
Yep.
Oh, that's cool.
Forward, back, and whatever. Top, left, right, bottom.
That's
And I can automate that as well. So that could be
keyframe it?
Yeah, so that could be
Okay.
a car. And I can also grab them just from that map.
and that's a
Just a mini map.
3-dimensional space, which I think is really cool.
Exactly.
So
yeah, you can see them actually moving around.
it's a 3D. Think of a mini map. If you've ever played video games, down at the bottom when you have the mini map with the little blips from other people, and that's kind of visually. If you're listening, that's kind of what it's a 3D. It's a sphere, and you can move those objects, those sounds, those little blips in a 3-dimensional space.
Right.
Exactly.
And there's a scale there. It tells you how far away it is in meters, I think is what it was. Can you change
Yeah,
that?
they were using meters. I should have brought up the grid window, but it'll also give you degrees as well. So you can get a sense of like how far back
that's
it can
cool.
go and then at what degree point. So if I'm like, Kyle, can you give me like a 0 degree point at this point in the video? Then I know exactly
Gotcha.
how far out I can bring things.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's super cool. So
Or sorry, is there a little bit more of this?
Yeah, there is. So
okay.
So again, with the monitoring, you could be mixing in ambisonics and monitoring in binaural, or you can be doing this in surround. And this is just me kind of showing some more functionality for anybody who's already been kind of mixing for a little bit, just so they know. We can skip forward a little bit. So at one point, I'm going to bring up a demonstration video of a scene. Yeah, so start there.
Whoa.
Okay, so this is a sound design project that we did. And essentially what it is, it's like we were given a clip with no audio and we had to do all the sound design over it. So this would be like the 2D video. But what I'm going to show you is you can overlay like a theater in it. So you can get kind of a sense of what it's like to mix in a theater,
cool.
which
That's
is
cool.
pretty great. I mean, it's pretty accurate.
You can play the video, and that's it looks like there's actually a movie screen.
Yeah,
playing
so
the
that's-
actual video.
Exactly. And again, like having this overlay is super helpful. And so in the video, there's like parts where there's a drone flying over, and I have the sound of a sound design drone, and you can see the object actually like automated and panning over.
I mean, this sounds like So why isn't this as big of a deal as it should be?
It needs to be.
Yeah.
I'm trying to help get it there right now.
For real.
It solves so many problems. Would anybody who maybe has a back? Oh, I guess you guys have the background in Pro Tools and with this was pretty intuitive, that switch.
Yeah,
I feel like just the act of being in there and moving sounds physically is intuitive.
My prior experience was getting to mix in an actual like theater space and having again to grab sounds and try and do the third eye movement of where things are. And I had the opportunity to do some Atmos stuff too. And again, like you had kind of that object space, but again, you're interfacing with a mouse. And to me, it's like, this is kind of silly. Why can't I just grab the sound and see where it's going?
Like trying to 3D model with a paper and pencil.
Pretty much. And to me, this solves all of that. And again, it's like, I plan on bringing this into a proper mix environment, especially when we do Blake stuff. But the fact that I could just take an HDMI cord and run it into like a theater stereo system and have 5.1 in my room and just move stuff around is amazing.
Yeah.
Now, could you, as a 360 video content creator, is this something that once the mix, so we put together the edit, I send it to you guys do the mix. How does that then get back into something like Premiere, or is it something that you have to export? Because you have to take it into Unity, right? In order to do that visualization, is that correct? Or are you doing that within?
Well, the Unity aspect that they have is it's not for specifically creating the video. There is a Unity aspect, but that is their own audio spatializer SDK that's separate from this specific process. That's for creating those 3D sounds in an actual game engine, where I can kind of go into what the game engine is important for something like this.
Please.
Sure. So, once you actually have the full video and the ambisonic options, for example, a tool like Unity, which is something I've been using a lot, you can create 360 video players inside of Unity, and you can host those offline. You can put those on any headset, so any Gear VR, PlayStation, Oculus, Vive, Quest, whatever. Yeah. And you can host any 360 content that you want on there, and it doesn't stop at that as well, because you can put it on mobile devices,
right?
Even desktop devices as well.
So Dear VR, once you have your spatial audio mix, is it then possible? Because for people that don't know, YouTube and Facebook are totally different when we talk about spatial audio. You are having to essentially create two separate mixes for both those platforms, depending on where you're putting out the video, right?
Yes.
When we're talking specifically 360 video.
Yes.
Does Dear VR make it to where you don't have to do that, or does it make it to where it makes that process so much easier?
It makes the process certainly easier. Yeah. That hiccup point that you're talking about, that's kind of like the traffic jam for us. It's like, that's the encoding process. So like for YouTube, they can't do headlock stereo, but you can have 4-channel ambisonics. With Facebook, you can do, I think, up to 16 channel ambisonics,
which that's insane.
Yeah, and
have
third
order.
Third order, and then have a headlocked as well. Gotcha. So for us, like, we can just flip an output, and it's like, okay, great, we can have a 16 channel, and then we can have the 4. But with YouTube, like, we may not be able to include, the headlock.
The headlock, which headlock, if nobody knows, headlock is kind of that if you have voiceover in something, let's say you're in a 360 space, it's like wearing headphones. Like, what are you hearing in your headphones?
Static.
It's static. It's not moving around.
It doesn't sound like it's coming from any one specific place.
Yeah. Okay. So this is improving turnaround speed. Like, it essentially allows you to operate more efficiently, more effectively.
Right.
Certainly.
What would take us a month, doing our jobs correctly, not trying to rush it out the door, like, we could turn it around probably half that time.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
So this type of process here, traditional audio, so we're in Nashville, a lot of audio, a lot of studios. Is this something that any one of those studios could take advantage of, or is this specific to immersive content?
Oh, they certainly could. And nowadays, I've been seeing around different facilities have actually been incorporating Atmos systems into their control rooms, which is amazing.
What's special about Atmos for anybody that doesn't know?
It's essentially 3D audio. I mean, you're in like a listening environment, and they've got all these speakers around you, trying to put in layman's, and you can essentially position audio anywhere in that space without headphones. I mean, like you're having 3D sounds come in and around you. It's amazing.
Gotcha. And it's mostly for theater applications.
Yeah. So like if you go to a movie theater, like that's where you'll experience it. But, you know, with where things are going, you know, Apple adopting a lot of Dolby stuff, Sony's doing their own kind of 3D sound. Like you could wear headphones and have a 3D audio experience.
Oh, that's cool.
And they're doing that with music too, by the way. So it's
when they actually, the way they're capturing the music, the way they're actually recording the music.
So like the way that we recorded the music, that's totally appropriate. But the way that they're mixing it down and giving you that delivery, like they're now like Universal is turning around mixes in 3D now. Like you could potentially listen to like Elton John in 3D.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean that's where it's going.
It's like kind of the jump between DVD and Blu-ray. It's kind of like it's a jump in clarity. It's a jump in like you just get more.
Right.
You just get a little bit more.
A better analogy I like is from going from mono to stereo.
There we go. That's it. Yeah, that's an even better one. Video guy over here.
Yeah.
Audio guys over there.
But and the last thing too, something that I noticed when we actually were trying out the Deer VR with our surround system at home, the thing that got me the most was that the sound was much more impressionable. It felt like I was more there. I think just having something about that air in between the speaker and like my ears, like I'm actually picking it up in another space. Gotcha, that excited me not only just for the mixing and like what our content could be, but you know, like if I decide to play a game in VR, like I now have a reason to go out and buy a surround system because I'm going to have sounds coming at me rather than just in my ears.
So do you think there's an advantage to listen? So do you prefer to have just speakers on the outside as opposed to headphones?
Yes. I mean, just for like the pure, like the fun of it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
There's a lot of trade-offs, but I do have to agree. Just the sounds feel much more natural to your ears rather than having this thing, you know, playing sounds right in your
very
ears.
close. Yeah, it's so close.
It's hard to emulate that room feeling that you're actually in a space.
And especially if you have like a subwoofer too, because now you're getting
the woofer.
The woofer, like, you know, to play like No Man's Sky and like explosions are going, like that would feel much more present.
Yeah,
certainly.
I never thought to just set up a surround sound for VR because VR has always been so headphone based. It's like everywhere you go, and it, you know, a lot of that purpose is to drown out. It's for the immersion. But if you're in a controlled environment, like why not set the speakers?
Yeah, like why not go down in your living room and just be like, okay, let's have it. It's game time.
So what experimenting with this software, have you found any limitations? Is there anything that you just kind of left like that would be really cool if we could do that? I guess as a letter to the developers.
Yeah. So
go ahead.
One thing that we want to really do is because right now we have our computer that we have all of this on right now, and we would like to be able to take that to the studio and have this Deer VR, have it connected to all the studio speakers, but having to take an entire computer,
desktop computer,
it's having to set up a HTC Vive. It's a process. Yeah. So that's one small limitation that we've been trying to figure out.
But I think you should talk on that a little bit more though too, because I mean we were using like bridging tools to be able to connect to your Quest.
Yeah, so we've been testing out running Quests on Steam VR, basically.
Yeah.
Over the internet, pretty nerdy.
Over the interwebs.
Yes. So we've been able to use this software with a Quest, using that Steam VR emulation. There's still some latency issues,
right?
Just some compression issues because everything's going over the internet.
Is that because that Deer VR is only compatible with Steam VR? Or will it work with Oculus?
Just the way I believe it will work with Oculus, but I think it might still be through Steam VR. I'm not exactly sure, but it's just desktop based right now.
Gotcha. PC VR.
Exactly.
Got it.
Because you have to have that connection to your workstation. Inside of there. So that is one limitation.
Do you think the link will fix that?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, definitely. We're so excited for the link. Can't wait for that.
Yeah, but just to, like, and that's the thing. Like, if we can walk into like a control room, like if we do a setup like that, and to just quickly put on the headset and not have cables or anything else like
set
that.
up tripods everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Turn it on and plug it in and just works.
And it works.
The downside of.
And I think it will get there, because I remember asking them a few questions, and they're definitely looking into that sort of thing. But again, just the no cables and portability factor is just, that would be great.
That would be great.
That would be great.
So somebody, when we look at the end consumer, when we look at the people that are going to be, who do you feel most? I guess this is for the audio engineering world, like the people who makes it. This is a tool built for them.
Right? Yes, yeah, and improving all the time.
And this is something that they can use that'll save time and save money
and potentially make better work.
Why is this not a thing?
I don't know.
Why is this not bigger than it is?
It's definitely getting some attention. I know Sennheiser's now a big part of DRVR, like they're on board with that. So like
that's encouraging.
Yeah, like when we were recording with Blake, we were mindful to use like a Sennheiser Ambio mic, not just for that, but like it's going to tailor better to the compatibility. Yeah. It's going to be better. It's going to be easier, smoother, faster. So they're on it. I would like to see this. I would like to see Dolby go, oh, that's it. And
just
gobble
them up.
Yeah, well, like just make be a part of that and realize like that's how you do it. Like, no more of this interfacing via a mouse.
Would that would require an investment from a studio to buy a headset, right?
That's correct.
They'd have to,
and most likely a computer that can run headset,
and and a bit of a learning curve.
Yeah,
too. Yeah. That they have to be willing to do that, which is why I think the second it gets compatible with something like the Quest, it's going to make it that much more palatable.
Yeah, that's for sure.
That's super cool. And what are you? So you're working on the Blake Ruby project using DRVR, and you said you had this sample that where you're in the theater. Are you using on any other thing? Is there anything that you any projects that you guys are working on that like you're excited to use this on, or where do you want to, like, what type of project? What's the ideal project for this? Is it the Blake Ruby? Because I feel like
Blake Ruby's is great, but I think having more like moving parts, things where like
more of a cinema, like
a cinema experience, and like with the volumetric capture, like why I got so excited about that is like, wow, we could do this kind of cool 3-dimensional capture, and now that's more stuff that I can assign sounds to and do that quickly. And if that was a video format with the 3D element, it's like here we go, like I just got to grab stuff and automate it.
So coming from a production studio, so 360 video studio, that's primarily what we do. If you were working with other 360 videos, what does that process look like? If I'm a potential client, it's like, hey, I have this 360 video, I need some spatial audio done, and they give it to you. Like what?
Yeah, that's a good.
Like what does that look like for them? Like what are they going to be getting back in return? Like how are they going to incorporate? Does the process not change for them? Like it's business as usual for spatial audio. It just makes it easier on you guys. How does that work?
That's a good question. Something we're trying to still figure out at the moment. But it is going to be mostly business as usual. Because it's mainly just the tools for us that's changed. The interfacing that we do with the customer should not change very much, just because the tools change. The main thing that changes is how we work and how quickly we can work.
I mean, one thing I know pretty well too is like the excitement factor. Like when you go and capture something, the client's like excited to see it, or in our case, like to hear it. It's being able to give them that turnaround quickly, and to remain excited about it. They don't have to wait on that any longer. And the fact that like we can do it this way means that it's going to be more well represented, and I can spend more time designing sounds rather than just trying to get stuff in quickly.
Spatialized.
Right. Yes. So like if we go on a set with you, it's like, for us, it's like dialogue is going to be the most important thing. And if we can grab some ambiences and bring an ambio mic, then great. But I mean, a lot of that time later is us, hunting or designing sounds or doing Foley.
Yeah. Yeah. And this tool is also helping you design. Is this something that you could possibly even have if I'm a filmmaker who is trying to sell spatial audio, which we fully believe that spatial audio needs to be included in a 360 video, especially if you're going to consume something in a headset when we're talking VR and 360 video, it's imperative that
it's
you use
necessary.
spatial
It's
audio.
completely necessary.
Is it something that while on set, does this make it to where you could even turn around a rough experience day of for dailies?
I mean,
for if I have a client who's sitting next to me and they're like, I want to see what this sounds like. Let's hear the difference. Is that something that's even possible?
because of tools like this, I would say it's more possible for sure.
Yeah, more possible.
It would just depend on the circumstances. Like, was the audio good that day? But at least to get like, but at least to get like, I mean, a lot of times like with post audio, you'll have like temp sound effects. At least getting like temporary sounds and things like that, you can definitely get a pretty clear idea quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now the sound design aspect of it is the other time consuming part.
Yeah.
Where
I think that's the art of it. A lot of I mean, it is an art. Yeah. It's not something that can just.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's the other thing that does consume a lot of time. Whereas the Deer VR doesn't, it'll help us spatialize it and it'll help us find that perfect balance, but actually creating it and finding it, it does not help with, unfortunately, just yet. Just yet. We'll see. Maybe they'll come up with
something like that. That's super cool. Well, dude, this was, we spent a lot of time talking about Deer VR, but it is a big deal. And I want to reiterate that to anybody who's listening. This is the reason why we spent this much time talking about it. Is it is potentially going to change the way that you guys spatialize audio from here on out. Yeah. And this is not something that this is a tool that's going to make a big difference.
We're never going back to Facebook's tools. We'll never go
It's over.
You heard it here first.
Yeah.
The official breakup call.
Yeah. So anybody, I would highly recommend anybody who's considering looking into some new tools. This is the number one tool I would recommend for any sort of spatial.
Is it? What does it cost right now?
It's not cheap.
You can get deals depending on the time of the year, but it's a few $100s
for like buy the product outright. Or is it a monthly subscriber?
No monthly. Yeah, just you buy it outright. Yeah, we appreciate that.
That's a good, nice change of pace.
Sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say it's like for me, it's been worth every penny. I mean, it's under 1,000, but like
hashtag not an ad. This is not an ad.
It's not an ad.
It's just a great product that you guys have been enjoying, and I think it's really cool too. I'm excited to be able to see what you guys do. And I want the opportunity to actually see you guys in action. But until then, thanks for coming in, guys.
Thank you, dude.
Thanks for having us.
See ya.
Bye.
I mean, I'm going to see you right now. You're not going anywhere. We're just going to hang out right after. But thanks for coming. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this time that we got to spend with Robert and Julian. They're good friends of mine. They started out as interns, and now they're starting off. They're flying away on their own little journey of professionalism and doing the things that they do in the industry. It's really exciting to talk to them. If you enjoyed it, if you have questions for them, drop it down in the comment section down below. And don't forget, if you've been enjoying this, give us a like, subscribe, check us out. We're on all the platforms. If you watch this on video, we've got audio versions too. You can check it out on Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, a couple other places, but we got Facebook and YouTube. So check us out there. And what we did, we created this show because there are a lot of talented immersive content creators out there, but there aren't a whole lot of platforms for them to show what they're doing. So that's what we want to do. We want to give them a platform to be able to speak about the cool things that they're doing. If you know somebody like that, let us know. You can email me, Kyle@actualityvr.com, and you can let us know if you know somebody who wants to be on the show. But that all being said, guys, thanks so much for joining. Don't forget, Actual VR Show comes out every Monday and the podcast every Friday. But until then, I'll see you next time. Peace out.